What is up, internet? It's your boy Alan back with another video, and in today's video I want to talk about if I'm Asian or I'm American. And it's been a lifelong question of mine, and I think for some context, right, I've been in Taiwan for the last month reconnecting with my culture because I'm half Taiwanese and half Chinese, and my dad is from Beijing and he immigrated to America I think when he was 18, and my mom around the same age. She immigrated from Taiwan when she was around 16 or 18, and then they had me in the San Francisco Bay Area. Yay! And now I'm alive. Yeah. And so you can consider me a first generation Asian American. And growing up, grew up in a obviously Asian household where the majority of my family spoke Mandarin, right, to me. So being in Taiwan, I'm able to understand people at a pre-K level. I can understand very basic phrases. I can't really read, and if I do speak, it's with a very thick American accent. It's almost kind of embarrassing, honestly, because look how Chinese I look, and then I speak, and they're like, holy shit, this guy's white. Which is kind of funny to me. I feel like my mom wanted us to assimilate really well into American society, and I think that's why there's less of a push to make sure that we were fluent in Mandarin. I think looking back on it, and maybe that's a bit of a mistake, but I can also course correct it by taking Duolingo or language lessons. But I also think a part of me was at the time really wanting to assimilate into American society, to fit in, and then I also was just trying to learn English at the time. But I think learning Mandarin would have been really valuable just because China's going to play a huge role in the next century in the world economy, and learning that language is really valuable. So a part of me does regret and wants to be more fluent in my native tongue. I think it teaches you how to think in more unique ways that you wouldn't be able to think if you are only speaking English. And I think it'd be nice just to look the part, I guess. I think there's also a lot of Asian Americans migrating to the US, or their parents just want their kids to be that perfect white, or just to perfectly assimilate into Western culture. And that can happen to a lot of Asian Americans where they don't speak their native tongue like me. But with that context, I think growing up, always really wanted to fit in with the kids, and I really feel like I buried that part of being Asian. I just didn't think it was very cool at all back in the day. I've talked about it in my previous videos. I think there's different pockets in the Bay Area where you either go to a school with a bunch of Asians, like if you're in Fremont or Cupertino. Those are like, even San Francisco, you might just grow up with a bunch of Asians. But I think in mine, I grew up in a very balanced, we're not balanced, it was mainly Asians and white people, and then Latinos and others as well as a smaller population, and also Indians. But also just really wanted to be white. I played baseball. I barely speak Mandarin. I had a lot of white friends growing up. I don't know, everybody saw on TV. I think media influenced it a lot, and me wanting to just be white. A lot of part of me is considered a banana. Really Chinese looking on the outside, but pretty basically 90% white on the inside. I speak English with a very nice American accent. I think people find that impressive. when I go internationally. I remember in Manila when I was talking to a security guard about something, and then he was like saying, "Oh, you speak really good English," and he was like very impressed with that because I think when you speak with an American accent, there's comes with this like prestige, if you will, abroad, and you get even more clout if you speak fluent American with an American accent as well as speaking fluent Chinese Mandarin. Like, then you're absolutely goated. I think if you had to drop me into two different countries and see where I would be most comfortable, I think for me, I guess like in social situations, it would definitely be in a American context, right? Like if you drop me into a house party in America, I would be able to really put on a nice front, if you will, or like this act that, well, it's not even it's like a part of my personality where I'm really able to put on this sociable face and know how to behave and act and interact with people in an American social environment. Like you can drop me into a room full of white people and I'll be able to interact pretty seamlessly. But a part of me makes doing that is actually really draining for me, because I feel like I'm not fully being myself, and it's an interesting place to be because I am American. I'm able to interact with all peoples of all different races and colors and do that at a very fluent level, or just it's just very natural. But inside I'm like kind of exhausted because I'm just basically being a chameleon and fitting into wherever environment. And that's how I feel when I'm in America, especially in corporate social events like trade conferences and networking events and company outings and company team bonding stuff and Zoom meetings and stuff, like those situations. But even sometimes in social circles when I'm with like in a more predominantly white crowd or something, I feel like I'm just that token Asian guy that is really good at being white. But I think if you drop me into a social situation here in like Taiwan, I think like I fit in technically in the sense that I look the part, and then where I don't fit in is when I get brought to a table or I try to conversate somebody at a bar or club and I can't speak their native tongue. Even in Taiwan, it's a struggle to talk to the bartender clearly. Even if I wanted to talk to somebody randomly at the bar, I have to see if they speak English or not, and then I can't. Like for example, I had some friends in Taiwan, they speak English, but when they bring me around their friends, they don't speak English at all. So I'm basically just this outsider that is sitting in on a conversation and my buddy has to translate for me. So I don't really technically fit in there, even though I look like I fit in. So to answer the question, am I Asian or am I American? I feel like I lean more towards the American side, just because I can speak the native tongue and can fit into social situations. There won't be a situation in America usually where somebody's translating for me, like in Taiwan I just shared. And I think if I had to add more nuance to the question, where I feel like I fit in what I actually am, I'm Asian American, not fully American, I'd say. But yeah, I think I was kind of really just thinking through this question and my thoughts around it. Really a stream of thought here of Asian American identity. I hope maybe some of you guys found this relatable or interesting to hear about my background, and I'll see everybody in the next stream of thought video. Peace.